Hello and welcome to Candela. Let us continue our discussion in WTO, and today let us discuss about the principles of trading in WTO. So before that, briefly let us discuss about the objectives of WTO. So WTO was mainly created with the following objectives: to create a credible and reliable system of international trade routes. That is, to create a rules which are so credible and reliable so that the member countries can rely on this rule so that everyone gets benefited. Then to ensure fair and equitable treatment of all the participants. No one should be discriminated. Everyone should be treated at par or a fair and equitable treatment of all the members. Then stimulating economic activity through guaranteed policy bindings. Just make some policies which aims at stimulating the economic activity, economic growth and development through proper policies. Then promote trade and development through progressive liberalization. So by liberalization, right here we refer to liberalizing the barriers to trade. The tariff barriers, non-tariff barriers, etc. But still, whatever rules which we make here, we cannot apply it to all the member countries at a similar level. Because there are few member countries in WTO who are the most developed, like the United States of America, Germany, China, Japan, Canada, United Kingdom, etc. At the same time, there are also some countries which are least developed, like Zambia, Mozambique. Okay, so there are few countries which are, there are few even developing countries who are member in WTO. So there is a need that when you make a trade rule, the interest of the developing countries, the interest of the least developed countries are also protected adequately. We need to make it sure that whatever rules which we make in WTO related to international trade should not play any havoc in the life of or the livelihood of the people from the developing countries and the least developed countries. So altogether we have a good number of principles of trading under WTO. Reciprocity and non-discrimination. Reciprocity and non-discrimination were the most important principles of trading under WTO. Still, we have other principles also, like the binding and enforceable commitments, transparency, safety valves, and special and differential treatment. So let us discuss this one after other. Reciprocity. So reciprocity is a very important principle of trading in WTO. That is a reciprocal commitment. So all the member countries meet regularly at the so-called at the ministerial conferences held once in 2 years, where the member countries, the Commerce and Industry Ministry will be representing the country here. And during this negotiation, if one member country agrees to reduce the trade barriers or agrees to reduce the import tariffs to a particular level, the other member countries should also reciprocate that by reducing their own tariffs. Then non-discrimination. Non-discrimination is a very important principle in WTO. In that there are two important components. One is the most favored nation treatment. Another one is national treatment. So by most favored nation treatment, you might have heard these many times. So India, we have accorded most favored nation treatment to Pakistan, but they didn't reciprocate it because they cannot do it. And recently in the year 2019, we have withdrawn that most favored nation treatment to Pakistan. But we have this treatment towards China, and there are no changes. So what is this most favored nation treatment? We are not going to provide any favor to any particular country by providing them the most favored nation. The only favor which we are going to do is by treating them at par with all the other member countries. All the other member countries. Let me tell you one example for this MFN status. Most favored nation status. Okay, so this is India. And suppose if we are importing sugar from few other member countries, like one from Sri Lanka, say one from Kenya, from Nigeria, from Sri Lanka, etc. And we also import this from Pakistan. So all these countries are member countries. And while importing this commodity, we'll be imposing some custom duties that we call it as import tariffs. Suppose if you are imposing 10% tariff for this country, we are expected to impose the same level of tariff for all the member countries. For Nigeria also 10%, for Sri Lanka also 10%. But for Pakistan, we are not giving the most favored nation treatment. So we'll be imposing 20% tariff for the import of sugar from Pakistan. That means we are not providing MFN status to Pakistan. If you provide MFN status, it means we need to treat that member country at par with the other member countries, at least in imposing the tariff. Got it? So if you make even this as 10%, even for Pakistan, if you make it as 10%, it means that we are according Pakistan the most favored nation treatment. So most favored nation treatment means we are not going to favor any country here. We are going to treat that country at par with the other member countries. So whatever may be the import tariffs which we are imposing it on other countries, the same will apply to that particular country also. This is one non-discriminatory principle which is called as most favored nation treatment. The next one is national treatment. That is once when a foreign member country, a member country's product entered your country, this product should be treated at par with the domestically produced commodity. For example, as I told you, now we have imported sugar from one country. They have paid all the custom duties and the product is now here. Even there are number of local producers who will also be producing the same product. And this product will be subject to a number of taxes like excise tax or GST, whatever may be the thing. Suppose if you are imposing 10% GST on this product or 10% tax on this product, 10%, it is because this particular product has come from some other foreign country. You should not impose a differential tariff here. So for this product, right, the tax will be 20%. You're not supposed to do this. If you are doing this, that means you are not providing the national treatment. So national treatment means the imported product should be treated at par with the domestically produced, the domestically manufactured commodity. So whatever taxes or whatever rules which applies to the products produced domestically, the same set of rules, the same set of taxes should apply for the product which you have imported from some other WTO member country also. So this is national treatment. Guys, are you comfortable with these two things? Most favored nation treatment and national treatment. So the next important principle is the binding on the enforceable commitments. So whenever the member countries make some commitment during the negotiation, they bind the commitment. We call it as sealing bindings. For example, if one country during the negotiation, if it manages to bind their commitment, like say for a particular product, say tobacco, will be imposing only 10 percentage as custom, 10 percentage as customs, or 10 percentage as the tariffs. So then this becomes a binding on them, and it is an enforceable commitment. And unilaterally, right, they cannot just alter this, but they can do it. You suppose during some extraordinary condition when they want to increase it to 12 or 13 percentage, they can now discuss with the other member countries, other important partners who are trading in that commodity. They can discuss with them, and they can go after this discussion, after this negotiation, they can just go ahead with a slight alteration in the tariffs. But sometimes if they do it in a very unjust and unfair way, then this can attract a dispute. Then the other member countries can initiate a dispute settlement process here. Binding on enforceable commitment. So next is transparency. So transparency is something very important, a principle in WTO. See, on one fine day, a country like India, so we can declare, we can make one binding commitment saying that so we are going to limit our tariff on tobacco product by 10 percentage. Only 10 percentage will be the customs duty which or the import duty which the member countries will be paying when they import tobacco into our country. Tobacco. But sometimes what we may do, we may provide them such a concession, a very less tariff. But internally what we will do, except one particular tobacco product, we may ban all the other tobacco products. We may just promote only gutka. Gutka is a staple food for many people in some part of the country. But good, it was banned now. So sometimes what we may do, but this is not, see, gutka is not a common tobacco product available throughout the world. Cigars, cigarettes, these are the popular available tobacco products. So one fine day what we may do, we may ban all the tobacco products except this gutka. We may permit only gutka to be sold in the country. Then what will happen to the member country? What is this? See, directly they allowed that, indirectly they are prohibiting the trade by some other policies. If some member country, if they are not aware of the policies and thinking that there is a huge market in India, and if they increase their production and if they supply it, then when it gets rejected there in the customs, then what will happen to that member country? How much loss they will be incurring? So there are a number of provisions under transparency, the most important being the trade policy review mechanism. Here every member country is expected to declare or provide the adequate details about their policy measures related to trade. And if a member country needs an access right up, they have the right to access the other member country to access their trade policies. And a member country should also allow a third party to access the trade policy so that they can make some comments about that, or they can make some issues explicit so that other member countries can know about what exactly is happening in a particular country as a trade policy. This we call it as trade policy review mechanism. Trade policy review mechanism. Then this safety valves. As I told you, all the member countries cannot be treated at par. USA can be treated at par with China. Japan can be treated at par with Germany or Canada. But is it possible to treat Nepal or Bhutan at par with China or Japan? So there is a need here. There is a need here to protect the interest of the least developed countries and developing countries, and that too particularly for the countries like India. Agriculture is a huge sector, no doubt, but in India, agriculture is not for trade. Agriculture is only for livelihood in our country, and agriculture is not for trade. So just we cannot liberalize our economy to indulge in a free trade in agriculture. That may result in loss of livelihood for a few million people, million poor farmers in the country, and we cannot take a risk here. So there are adequate safety valves which are very much a part of WTO. Let me discuss few important safety valves. One such mechanism found in agriculture is the special safeguard mechanism. Special safeguard mechanism means at times, suppose if there is a surge in import, an increase in import of one particular commodity, that may be due to a rapid fall in global prices. Or some other member country may have a very fantastic technology or a new innovation because of which they may be in a position to export the commodity at a very cheaper price. Certainly that will affect the economic interest of a few million people living in a country like India. One good example is sugar or even rice. There are few member countries who can import a very good quality rice at a very cheap price. And suppose if there is an extraordinary fall in global prices, to protect the local agriculture or the country's domestic agriculture, here a member country can raise the tariff temporarily so that they can keep a check on the cost of the imported products. So to some extent they can protect the domestic agriculture and domestic industry. Then by special products, this is one very special facility available for least developed and developing countries under WTO. Developing countries, they can self-designate. That means they themselves can designate few products as special products. The only condition here is it should be for food security, livelihood security, or rural development needs. For these three purposes, for food security, for livelihood security, and for rural development needs, a developing country or a least developed country, they can self-designate few products as special products. And these products, right, will attract a special tariff concession from the developed countries. This is one way of providing adequate support to the local economy of the developing and the least developed countries. Then we also have special and differential treatment. Special and differential treatment. So there are a number of member countries who are really poor, who are really struggling to build their economies, and who really need this special and differential treatment. So these treatments includes like a longer period of implementing agreements. So in the ministerial conferences, the member countries may agree for some agreement. And when the member countries are expected to enforce the agreement. So developed countries, they may be expected to enforce it immediately. At the same time, few developing and least developed countries, they'll be given some time. Okay, just take some time so that you can enforce this agreement after some time. One very good example for this is under the TRIPS agreement. That is the trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. So in the year 2000 it was made that product patent should be made compulsory for drugs and pharmaceuticals. Earlier in India we were practicing process patent. So when we discuss the agreements under WTO, we will discuss in length about the product patent, process patent under TRIPS. So once when product patent was introduced, India was forced to follow suit. But we have a huge pharmaceutical industries, and suddenly moving towards product patent will result in increase in the cost of the drugs. So for a developing country like India, apart from being developing, right, we have our own problem like a very huge population, and very huge population which is vulnerable to a number of issues like economic issues, social issues. So India was given some sort of differential treatment, that we were given 5 years of time to implement this particular agreement. So in the year 2005 only, we have amended in India, we have amended our patent rule to make it compatible with the TRIPS agreement. And we moved towards product patent from the process patent. Similarly, there are a number of other provisions, special provisions available under this. This includes measures to increase the opportunities for the developing countries. So developed countries need to provide some opportunity, like whenever there is a trade expo, we should provide opportunity for the developing countries to come and exhibit their products there. The developed countries should be in a provision to provide at least some help, like, see, these are products, right, special products come, okay, let us market it in our country. So there is adequate market for these products in our country, you can just manufacture this thing. So these are the ways by which developed countries can help developing countries in increasing their economic activity, or to stimulate the economic development. Then there are a few provisions that all the WTO members to safeguard the trade interest of the developing countries. So do not make rules which distort the economies of the least developed and developing countries. Then the WTO members also support to help the developing countries to build their capacity to carry out WTO related works. Like suppose if there is an issue of dumping, so they need to take this issue to WTO, where they need to prove that dumping is happening. So what are all the anti-dumping measures they can take, okay, or how to initiate and go ahead with the dispute settlement, etc. Then there are a number of provisions related to the least developed countries under WTO. So these are the various special and differential treatments available under WTO for the least developed and the developing countries. So principles of trading under WTO. And there is no need to much worry about the organizational setup of WTO. That's hardly of any utility for our main examinations point of view, or even for our prelims. So let us skip all those things and let us straight away jump into the next topic. The next lecture, let us start discussing various agreements under WTO, starting from agreement on agriculture, trades, trends, guards. Okay, let us discuss one after another leisurely. So until then, thank you.